Good afternoon, everyone. This is Kaduna Book and Arts Festival 2022. Yay! My name is Tolu Adetunji, and I welcome you to my panel discussion with Simnom Emmanuel, a tech enthusiast and co-founder Kaduna Women in Tech, Hafsat Kagara, rights-based approach and gender equity specialist at the United Nations Population Fund, and the only man in our midst, Haruna Alifa, a development researcher and special assistant to the Honorable Commissioner, Ministry of Human Services and Social Development. Before we delve right in, I'd like to read a poem. It was written by a 14-year-old Indian girl named Japman Anija. The poem is titled, Daddy Said Don't Let Them Touch. After I read the poem, I welcome 2 or 3 volunteers from the audience to tell us very quickly what that poem triggered in you. With your kind permission, I would read the poem. Chocolate-stained hands, glowing like diamond skin, candy in my mouth, jump in my walk, masked faces grab my waist, cloth covers my eyes, ink like black is all I see as the darkness shines. Layer by layer, the blankets are shed. Gloved hands trace my skin, but Daddy said, don't let them touch. No sign. Didn't you hear me? Breath on my chest. Gravel-like hands stroke my skin. Lips kiss along my curves. Crystal water eyes, looks like you didn't see, as you kicked me out onto the road. Torn, broken, blurred vision, as my eyes close to sleep. Cracked voice ceases to pray. Blood-stained hands, scarred skin, scream in my mouth, limp in my walk. But Daddy said, don't let them touch. Please, thank you. You tell us your name and, you know.
The poem is talking about a child being abused, precisely a teenager. A teenage girl being raped.
What emotion did it trigger for you?
Well, I actually feel like crying now, but I won't cry, Sha.
Okay,
yeah,
thank you. Thank you, Sena. Yes, please.
So this triggered memories of me being 16 years old after secondary school, working and waiting for my admission, and struggling with my boss's friend in the office. And I had to run out of the office. That was triggered.
She had to run out of the office. I'm so sorry. Thank you for sharing. Anybody else? One more person. Oh, there's somebody in the back. At the back.
My name is Amina Zakari. What this poem triggered is, I had cold feet, actually. I felt like I can imagine those going through sexual harassment. This is what they feel, and their voices need to be heard. And finally, it reminds me of when I started advocating on mental health, the challenges I got, the rejection I got from people telling me that, are you depressed that you want to talk about mental health? But alhamdulillah. Thank you.
Can we take one more? One more. Is there a man? I'm sorry, you know, but, oh yes, there's a man. Thank you. Thank you for bailing the other men out.
Hello, my name is Faisal Tijani. This poem triggered and reminded me of a friend that lives in Maiduguri. She was sexually harassed by her uncle when she wasn't up to 18, I think. And that made her become a poet, where her first poem was titled Dear Pedophile. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm sorry. So they don't kick us out before we even start our session. I'm happy that you all shared, and thank you to everyone that shared. I imagine that some people could relate even more to this story from personal experiences, and I'm really sorry that a lot of us have had to deal with this. So we'll just go straight into our panel discussion, and I'll start with Hafsat. So the topic is sexual harassment, a silent epidemic. That's an oxymoron, because how is an epidemic silent? And I'm curious to know what you think. Could you share your thoughts on the role of society, patriarchy, power, position, upbringing of children? What are your thoughts on these things and how they're fueling the menace of sexual harassment? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tolu. There's no need for introduction, and I would like to start by saying it is very easy, and I'm talking to everyone here. And some of us, unfortunately, beyond this point, this issue will die in this room. We have had discussions. I'm sure this will not be the first, and this will not be the last. But we all kind of shun and think that one day it will not sting. But until then, I don't wish that for anyone. We all have a role to play. It's so easy to say that I have a broken arm, because you can see that, right? You would see me with my, whatever it is that they put around my neck, or I tell you my head is broken, because you see stitches, Band-Aid, and whatnot. But it is very difficult to say that my heart or my spirit is shattered, or my heart is broken. And this is one thing that I want you to take home. This is what the survivors, or the victims, as you call them, because we refer to them as survivors, this is what they go through, and unfortunately, it never ends. And it doesn't matter whether or not the actual act has been perpetrated against them. So having made that opening, the question is, it is a silent epidemic. You call it epidemic, I call it a pandemic. Unfortunately, it is silent because really nobody wants to talk about it. Nobody wants to be associated with it. Nobody wants to be related to any form of sexual violence, harassment, or GBV. And this is why. Our parochial nature, the society unfortunately places a huge price on young girls and women. A woman has to be pure, correct? A woman has to be marriageable. And it doesn't matter if a man is pure or if he will be marriageable, I would say, right? So because of that emphasis that we have, that women need to be pure or they need to be marriageable, a lot of people, even when they know that this act has been perpetrated against their family members, their children, daughters, they tend to be quiet and silent about it. Because in the long run, what do we want at the end of the day? She has to have a husband. Someone then has to come and be married to her. There's nothing wrong in that. But then why should the burden be on me that something evil has been perpetrated against? So back again to the question, why is it silent? It is silent, I repeat, because nobody wants to talk about it. It's unfortunate that growing up, when you're growing up as a young girl, you are made, or you have the responsibility to take care of your family, you multitask, you take care of the home, you cook, you clean, you do all sorts of work. And at that time, the boy is made to, go out and play. The kitchen isn't yours. Social norms, you're not supposed to cook, you're not supposed to clean. Some men, I would say, don't quote me anywhere, because maybe some of you would argue that you do all of that. Then, unfortunately, when time at a certain level, maybe at 18, then roles will change. They tell us the man is the head of the family. And he is not used to multitasking, you know? He is made to believe in our society, unfortunately, that he is more powerful, forgetting that we did not start this at the initial stage. It is the woman who does all of this, and then we then change roles, and then we expect perfection. I'm sorry. Whether it happens, that's a question that I will leave open to this floor and panel. And it will continue to be a silent pandemic, or I say it's a, you call it epidemic, and I would say it's a pandemic, until we begin to see that it is our problem, all of us. Look, it affects every single one of us in this room. And until we see it as my problem, your problem, then unfortunately we cannot do anything. It would continue to remain a silent epidemic. I hope that I haven't overflowed this. So society's social norms are some of the reasons why gender-based violence, even when perpetrated against us, we tend to be quiet, because our girls need to be marriageable, and the chastity of a woman, there's so much emphasis on it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Hafsat. Thank you very much. You know, like you said, it is a pandemic. And even in this room, there were very few people who raised their hands to actually express. That's to show you that there's something, and then we're hoping that when we all leave this room after this panel, the discussion wouldn't stop there. Haruna, let's go quickly to you. It's not a secret that although men make up the larger population of perpetrators of sexual harassment, they are also sometimes victims. Could you share examples, experiences, you know, from your observation at work, or maybe even closer home, personal experiences of female or male-to-male sexual harassment, and the ripple effects, short-term and long-term?
Okay. Thank you, Tolu. As there's no introduction, I'll just go straight to answering the question. I was not in the social space, per se, the development space, before I joined the Kaduna State Ministry of Human Services. And, you know, I was raised in the society that all of us were raised in. Though I got some form of guidance from my family, but there were things I knew then that, you know, now I wouldn't want to be associated with. There were things that I had as ideas then that I would not be proud of. And it goes to show that our upbringing generally does not support this whole male survival thing. It does not exist in our society. It does not exist. Even if it exists, we do not support it. A child is raised, you know, a boy is raised to be, you know, this macho man. He's the boss. If the woman, the girl is at home, you know, washing plates and other things, he's probably somewhere playing football. And he comes back home, probably time is what will make them want to question him. Why were you outside for 3 hours? Nobody is asking what happened within that 3 hours that he was away. Those 3 hours are left to him to grow with. So you can imagine that child now having to tell you that somebody groped his genitals, an elderly person. It will be probably waved away. It will be probably waved away. Now, the ripple effect of this now is, at the point when the child gets abused, he'll start to contend within himself. Did I just grow up? Because yes, of course, some people's first sexual encounters were kind of abuses by older women. And amongst boys, sometimes it's even seen as a status symbol. It's not. But then, because that's how the norm has made us to, you know, that's the norm that we grow up to, we tend to accept those. So this child is now thinking within himself, was he abused or was he just promoted? Then a child that goes past this and probably tells his parents, how many of the parents will take this, this matter seriously? And most boys won't even do it. That's honestly how it's going to be. So the child takes this to be a promotion, therefore he's a macho man. He grows up, and then the effects coming. Toxic, okay, so I have 30 seconds now. A child grows up knowing or thinking that he's the boss because he can't be abused, when he was actually abused. So first of all, there's this toxic masculinity that comes out of it. This tendency of wanting to have his way, or, you know, because he was told that he's the boss, therefore he will get whatever he needs to get. And then sometimes they tend to be perpetrators because they know they will now start thinking they have rights over women's bodies. They would want to take without being permitted. So the effect is going to be so broad that I won't be able to say in a few seconds, but it's all this toxicity that has built up over the years that we are seeing in the community today, some violent behaviors, sexual harassment, harassment in workplaces, etc., if you permit me to use that word.
Thank you, Haruna. So I've seen a pattern here. From Hafsat and Haruna, we can tell that there are underlying issues, and the sexual harassment is more like, it's like the top of the tree. At the root, there are issues, there are problems, and they are left unattended for a long time. You know, they're left to fester, and then they become so much of a stump in the way of people, and we just find a way to adapt and just move on. So for the guy, he feels this is his time to, you know, just show his power. It doesn't justify what he does, but I think that this also gives us a sense on how to address these issues, especially nipping it at the bud, you know, from a young age. We don't need to wait till we're raped. I feel like the number of rape cases that have happened for eternity, and we should just stop it and start dealing with not having to have, you know, kids raped, children in school, and things like that. But let's take us away to the work environment, more with women and girls now. Sim, so you work with a lot of young women, you know, and children in your tech space. Can you just share experiences in the workspace, especially for women, you know, sexual advances and things like that, and how you're able to navigate in the male-dominated tech industry?
Thank you very much. So the issue is that some girls don't even know that they are being sexually harassed. So being in a male-dominated area, and then for you to be in tech is actually very rare for women, and especially in the north. So some girls don't even know they are being sexually harassed. So we see guys where they'll say, come with me after work, or they look at you when you wear a certain dress. And then they don't know, they feel very comfortable with it. And some girls would even think, yes, I'm hot. I'm like, yes, I'm the hottest girl here. So it happens a lot. And then working with young girls, you see how they are really being harassed, and they really don't know. They have no idea. There was an issue recently. Sorry. Yeah, go on. Sorry. Yeah. There was an issue recently where there were jokes. I was in a certain place and they were throwing jokes around women liking the push. So they ask you out, or they say come, and then you're like no, and then the guy will be like, no, you have to try harder. And it keeps happening. It keeps happening in the workplaces. It keeps happening in the society, and then we just keep quiet about it.
So how do you, because you manage other young girls, you know, how do you handle situations like this? So
I try to tell them that when they see something, they say something. So sometimes the victims don't know how to talk. So it happens that you that are a witness, you should have the feel to talk, to come out and say something.
Okay, so say something. See something, say something. Quickly. This time is moving so quickly. My God. I know. Hafsat, so I'd like you to just clear some misconceptions. Rape, gender-based violence, sexual assault, sexual exploitation, and the umbrella of it all, sexual harassment. But this time around, help us with relatable examples so we understand when we see these things or when we experience these things and what exactly these things are to us. Thank you.
Okay. Tolu, I wish it's like everyone in here is asleep. No, I don't want to believe that everybody here is asleep. No, I wish this was a training. I would ask you to do 1 or 2 activities, so that you stay awake. Okay, on a serious note now, Tolu, because the question is all encompassing, is large, and it has many areas, I will try to narrow it down to what we need to know on this platform. I will talk about numbers. I need us to know and understand that 1 in 3 women, when you put 3 women, 1 in 3 must have experienced one form of gender-based violence before the age of 15, or by an intimate partner. This is not a lie, this is fact. And our data shows about 98 to 99% of the victims are women and girls. This is not to say that it doesn't happen to men. 1%, maybe 2, right? So this is a reality. And I think the overall umbrella, and why I think that we don't even take this issue seriously, maybe because we just don't know, any form of gender-based violence is a violation of fundamental human rights. These are rights that we have that no one can take away from us. Then why then do we keep quiet when certain or a form of gender-based violence is perpetrated against us? It is our right to speak up. It is our right to say that something wrong has been done. Why do we continue to remain silent about these issues? So yes, back to the question now. All of the terms and terminologies that you've just mentioned, they are all under the umbrella of gender-based violence. It's a form of violence. Sexual harassment, sexual abuse, sexual exploitation, the different types of sexual abuse. We have, the different forms that it comes in. We have the physical, psychological, mental, or name it. There is a thin line, and I think I don't want to dive into what we already know. I would like to assume that we know what sexual abuse is. Hello? Do we? Do we? Sexual abuse. So just quickly, sexual abuse, there is a physical intrusion, right? Somebody has done something, there's a physical intrusion, the act has been committed, or an attempt to physically abuse or commit an act or a sexual act, correct? That's sexual abuse. Stop telling me. Okay. Sexual exploitation, on the other hand, it's simply the abuse of a vulnerable position simply because of the position or your status in the society or what the society has placed on you, e.g. because you're a man, or because I'm a boss in the office, or because because of anything, something that you have to get what you want. And usually it comes in like favors or transactional sex, giving money for something. A lot of us might think is not a form of gender-based violence, correct? But it is. Because for people who talk about, oh, you know what, it's consensual, she agreed, I pay her money, but already in that situation, there's a power imbalance. Because you have the money, she will do something, right? If you don't have the money, hell no, you know. So already in that situation, there's a power imbalance. So quickly, now sexual harassment, which people think it might mean one or two things, but I would like to say that it is all encompassing. It includes rape, it includes verbal abuse, gestures, many things that we tend to do, and we do not know that we're crossing the line or perpetrating a form of gender-based violence. For instance, you know, you come in, I think Sim said something, you come in to the office and someone tells you, oh, you look so hot today. It's a compliment, right? Some will take it to be a compliment. Someone will say, oh, you look so sexy. Ha-ah. And all sorts of languages that we use that we might think that we are complimenting. But I want you to know today that it is a form of abuse. So we need to be careful. We need to be very, very careful, because you don't have the right to tell me that what you have said, it's not an act of abuse. I should be the one to tell you that what you have done is an act of abuse, and I do not appreciate it. So, what was the other one? My time is up?
Yes.
No, it's
no,
not
but
up.
you've answered the question.
It's not up. I will be
answered the
very,
question.
very.
Okay.
No, it's not up. It's not up. So bottom line, you know, there's a thin line that we all should know not to cross. And I hope that with the little time that we have, things like emojis, text messages, oh, this, that, blah, 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 we all need to know and understand that we are committing an act that could be offensive to the vulnerable person, or to a woman, or whoever it is that we're perpetrating this against. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you so much, Hafsat, for awakening our consciousness to that. You know, we, especially this generation, we're very careless with words, and emojis too. You know, you use your dear very loosely. You use love struck. Some emojis, we don't even know what they mean, but we just use it. It looks nice. Kiss, you know. I love you. If you type I love you actually on WhatsApp, you will see that love symbol that you use anyhow means I love you, according to WhatsApp. Anyways, thank you, Hafsat, again. We need to be more conscious of these things, because they may seem innocent, but they're not. And over time, it becomes harmful to us and to our society in general. I promise you, the time that is working here is different from normal people's time. Okay, so Haruna, quickly, because we need to give the audience a chance to ask questions. I'll go one round. So I live in Kaduna.
Okay.
And God forbid, somebody rapes me tomorrow. What measures have been put in place by the Kaduna state government, that I pay my taxes to after all, to protect me, and very importantly, to get justice?
Oh, okay, so let me try to stratify the answer to ease the burden on me, because it's a very wide answer. It's Kaduna state government generally and the other structures in the state you're asking for now. So first of all, there are laws, legal frameworks in place. There's the Violence Against Persons Prohibition Act. Kaduna has the VAP law, the domestication of that act. Kaduna State has policies also in place. There's a gender equity and social inclusion policy, and something we should have done a long time ago is probably the safeguarding policy, and we are almost done with it. So that's for the legal framework aspect of it. There are other laws. You know, there's the penal code, which Kaduna amended very much to make provisions to punish rapists and other forms of abusers. There's the administration of criminal justice law that was made to ease the process itself of getting justice if someone is abused. So that's for the legal framework. There's more. There are more. Lawyers will know these things. The second stage is now, from the ministry's point of view, as you just asked now, we have facilities. Now, when I say facilities, sometimes it's not just the physical facility, it's that, we are able to make do with what we have. So we have sexual assault referral centers in Kaduna State. We have 4 of them, probably the highest number, 5 of them. There's a mobile one now that Hafsat helped us procure, alhamdulillah. So these centers are one-stop centers for response. When I say one-stop centers, there's access to police, there's access to lawyers, there's the medical aspect of it, there's testing, there's treatment, and other things. We have them in... Of course, confidentiality is probably one of the most cardinal of our principles here. And then you would now think of this process itself of reporting, because you are saying if someone is abused and he or she needs help. We recommend 2 entry points. We recommend 2 entry points: the hospital or the social welfare setup of the state. The ministry, which is the psychosocial entry point. So the medical entry point, where you can go to any of these referral centers, or yes, yeah. So we have one in Tudunwada in Kaduna here. We have one in Kakuri. We have one in Kafanchan, and one in Zaria, Yusuf Dansoho Memorial in Tudunwada, and there's one mobile one in Rigasa. So, but because we know that not everybody has access to these places, primary health care centers and all secondary and tertiary health institutions in Kaduna State are safe places for somebody to go to. And all of the local government areas have social welfare offices, both at the state level and the local government level. All of them are residing within all of the local government areas in Kaduna State. And they are, they know the referral pathway, they will guide you. But if mistakenly someone takes himself or herself or their family take them to the police, our friends who may scuttle our work, the police is increasingly committing to being responsible. So we are getting better educated people, better enlightened officers in the units that are in charge of gender-based violence. So basically it's to the hospital, to the ministry's social welfare offices, the local government social welfare offices, and of course to the police. Okay,
quickly, is there a toll-free number, or is there a number to call? And then what's your social media handle for the audience here, to just reach out, follow for things like
all of the sexual assault referral centers have Twitter and Facebook pages. They have lines that are not necessarily toll-free. We're working towards getting a toll-free line, but I will try to get it across to Kabafest to put all of the contact numbers. The Ministry of Human Services has a Facebook and a Twitter handle at KDHSSD. If you are not able to do that, any Kaduna State government worker that you are able to reach out to via DM, via message, I am almost certain they are going to reach out to us, and there will be response actions put in place immediately. But as you said, God forbid.
Yes, God forbid. God forbid. Thank you so much. Sim, in 3 minutes, can you tell us the role of social media advocacy in curbing this menace of sexual harassment? We see a lot of skits that sort of promote these things. What's the role of social media in mitigating?
We have a very long way to go, because social media is actually trying to increase sexual harassment through these skits. I know you guys see a lot of maybe nasty black jokes, and then everybody's retweeting and they keep posting back. So social media, a lot of people that are on social media will keep retweeting it, and then people would feel comfortable with this type of things. So I think it will all have to start with us saying that these jokes are not funny, trying to report these accounts that keep posting this funny, but somehow, yes, inappropriate jokes. I see them a lot. They come to my TL, and people retweet, people would like, would share, people would send it to the DMs, and this is how it will keep circulating. So I think if we start by maybe reporting the accounts, try to ban it, or just comment and say this is not funny, this is by yourself. Just try and not reshare. Yes, don't reshare it because it will keep circulating. Thank you.
Thank you. To add on that, I also think that we need more content creators who would put out positive things that would, over time, water down on the negatives, and people would realize that this negative joke is not selling. Maybe I should think harder and do something. I know we like to joke a lot and relax, but we've learned today that some of these jokes are inappropriate. They're suggestive, they are harmful in the long run, and we might escape assault, but it could happen to someone else that we care about, someone we love. So we need to look out for one another. We did it, guys. Now it's time for the audience to ask questions. Thank you.
Okay.
Oh, okay. Oh. Go for a second. Please give it to me. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Trying to stand. My name is Kadria Ahmed. My question is for Hafsat Kagara. I know that you've done some work around trying to sort of educate people on why certain cultural practices and laws matter. I was just wondering whether you can give us an overview of how much progress we're making in the north, outside states like Kaduna. Kaduna in many ways is sort of an outlier. They kind of tend to do things better and faster than other places. So give us a sense of what's going on across other states in terms of the way sexual abuse and all those other issues are being looked at, and whether you are optimistic that it is being taken seriously and we're going to see changes. And this is across both genders, by the way, because yes, boys are also getting abused and nobody's talking about it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Do you want me to respond, or
I think you should respond so that we don't run out of time.
Okay. So just quickly, I will talk for Kaduna State first, and I know you said besides Kaduna State, what else? What other states are doing in terms of laws and ensuring that to a large number of to a large extent, I will say that northern Nigeria especially, states like Sokoto just recently has signed the VAP law and child protection. I don't know what they call it, as a child protection or child's right act also. I don't know what the name is. So states like Sokoto State, we also have states like Gombe. We have states like, coming out of my head, I would not know exactly, but I am optimistic, Ms. Kadaria, that the state government are doing a lot in trying to bring stakeholders to see some of the laws that we have rectified at the international level that is being domesticated at the national level. About the rate or level of implementation in some of the states that have already adopted or have assented to some of these laws, I think that is where we have some challenges, and I will take Kaduna for instance. Kaduna State, we have signed many laws, policies, as Haruna has mentioned, but I think implementation rate is what we're struggling with. And states like Sokoto, they have just signed it, so we even have not started to see that is working yet. So I would say progress is made. People, I think right after COVID, it moved away from the epidemic to the pandemic, and there was a lot of physical violence, by intimate partner, So I think that was it was an eye-opener for many states now to begin to see that this is a serious issue, and if it doesn't eat you, it will one day eat somebody else that you know. So yes, I'm optimistic, if that's the question, and yes, other states are also trying to ensure that some of the laws that have been rectified at the international level are domesticated. Thank you.
Thank you, Hafsat.
All right.
Please go ahead.
All protocols duly observed. My name is Abdullahi Karima. So my question is to Mrs. Kagara. So we talk about sexual harassment as being a silent epidemic, or in this case, a pandemic. And when we talk about the root cause, one major thing that comes up is the fact that it is not talked about enough. Without forgetting that these survivors do not feel safe enough because of the stigma and discrimination it comes with. So how do we, as members of the society, create a safe space for survivors of sexual abuse, to talk about their experience and possibly get justice, and by extension, stop the culture of victim blaming? Thank you.
Okay. I answered, right, before? I knew that some of you will dissect me. I know. I saw it coming. But I would like to say something. First of all, you must know and understand that it is your responsibility to ensure that you give the support that needs to be given to any victim that sexual violence or GBV has been perpetrated against. I can only come here to tell you the tools, you have to do this, you have to do that, but I think that's all I can give to you. But it is your responsibility when you see something, you say something, and you protect the survivor. And Haruna has mentioned, I know that before you can respond or mitigate to any form of GBV, you must have to have at least a certain level of training, which most of us do not have. But what is most important is due diligence is for you to create a safe space for that person to be able to report to you, and in confidence, because our mouth runs like diarrhea. And if I'm going to go into the nitty-gritty of consent before you even share a survivor's story, believe me, you would not even want to, you don't want to even go there. Because before you're even allowed to tell someone, your neighbor, that so-so-so person came to me and she has this issue, it's a huge violation. So Haruna has mentioned, we have safe spaces. Kaduna State, I will continue to say Kaduna State because this is where I work and this is the state that I support. They have safe spaces, referral centers, where they have experts who can respond and mitigate some of these issues. And even if not at the centers, at the ministries, local government, they must have undergone some kind of training by UNFPA, on how to handle, some of these reports that comes to you, me, or to anybody. But I would throw it back at you. It is your responsibility to create that safe space. Stop shaming, stop blaming. I think let's start from that before we start to ask what anybody else can tell you to do when addressing any form of GBV. Thank you.
Thank you. Please, let's give it to the gentleman in glasses and blue cap. He's been raising his hand. So, and then we'll come here and then move this way.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Ishak Sani. My question is regarding the role of religious leaders in curbing the menace of sexually based violence. Like what I've observed so far, religious leaders and traditional leaders actually plays a very, very huge role in trying to curb the menace of this sexually violence. And this issue of indecent dressing, mostly from the female folks, which is something that also needs to be given another proper orientation in that aspect, so that at least we can minimize this to the barest minimum.
Please, let's respect the speaker, please.
Yes, actually.
Thank you. So we've gotten your question. Haruna, do you want to take a stab at that? We just agreed that this was a safe space. Kabafest attendees, please, and guests, thank you very much. Haruna has the floor. Thank you.
Okay, so we recognize the role of traditional and religious structures in forming what we call our cultures, our norms in our society. So we've always engaged them. We believe that to a certain level, there are people who, because religions are dogmatic, there are people who, if a scholar says something about either stopping rape or going back to school, would get positive responses. So we've started bringing them in as gatekeepers to help us do some of the advocacy, some of the sensitization that we need to carry out for this to succeed. We need to understand that killing, rape, or sexual abuse culture has to start from the family, from home, the upbringing, what is normal, what's not normal. Then, of course, you'd start growing into the sphere where your community, your immediate community, is now going to be influential on you. So if something happens within the family and the community does not tolerate rape, then the community will take action. So if you handle that aspect of it, you will notice that the local government areas, the states and whatever will just be having a few cases to handle. In terms of this issue of dressing that he's talking of, if it's a family level stuff, and if a family feels it's okay, or if a person feels it's okay to dress the way they dress, I think it's your responsibility to also be decent enough not to rape or abuse. So it's not a question of, scholars have spent all their life telling you what to dress, how to dress. Religions carry those things. It's not what you need to force somebody to do. If a rapist rapes, the crime is on that rapist. It's not because somebody dressed somehow or wore something to leave the house. Thank you.
Thank you, Haruna.
My name is Ahmad. I'm an exhibiting artist. Please visit my artworks opposite the bookstore. My first reaction on hearing the poem is anger. My question is, can anger be felt? Is anger real? Or she who wears the shoes is just overdoing it, overreacting, childish, unrealistic? Is anger silent or is something that can be felt? That's my question, actually.
When violence has been perpetrated, is that what you're saying? The anger that you feel, is it real? That's when violence has been perpetrated, right? Against. Okay, I think in the opening, I said to you that it's easy, or it's easier to say I have a broken arm, right? But it's very difficult to tell you that my heart or my soul is shattered, right? And because I am not allowed to express how I feel, because the society will either shun me or would start to stigmatize me or to shame me, I think there's something in me that will build in anger and resentment. Naturally, imagine if you have something to say and you're not allowed to say what you, because I saw you were raising up your hand, right? You wanted to talk. Imagine if we close this and you were not allowed to talk. How would you feel? Right? So it's really not, it's really not the question of whether there's anger. There is going to be anger because it's trauma. And I'll give you a quick relatable example. I think a few months ago, I was working with a colleague, and this, I was telling them, a few minutes ago, this colleague, in my own, or in our own knowledge, she is so educated, she knows her rights, and she knows everything that you can think of around sexual abuse or GBV. But she told me she walked into an office where apparently is her boss, and then what he said to her, please remove your mask so I can see your face. Right? It's harmless, is it? Is it harmless? Please take off your mask so I can see your face. And then he asked her, are you romantic? I know it's creating a lot of reaction, and this is exactly what I want here, right? And you would think that by what she knows, you know, she knows that it was a violation, and she will be strong enough to talk about this thing. She came out, and when I saw her, she was terrified and was shaky. And I asked her why. And she said to me, I am so uncomfortable that I do not think I like to come back here and work. And this is someone who knows what she's supposed to do. So imagine someone who is more vulnerable by circumstances. They do not know their rights, they do not know anything, and they're quiet. And tell me, what do you think would happen? Naturally, there will be anger, there will be resentment, and there will be trauma. So yes, you're not over-exaggerating what happens to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Hafsat. And you're also not alone, right? Good. One last question from a lady to my extreme right. Yes.
My name is Latifa. I want to ask a question based on what you said. You said, if you see something, say something. But how about if I witness like an sexual harassment against somebody and the person doesn't want to talk about it? How do I, the witness, go about it?
I think you should still say something because...
Excuse me, the person does not want to speak about it, does not want to acknowledge the harassment.
Is the person comfortable with the harassment?
It's not like the person is comfortable with the harassment.
I'll tell you what I'll personally do, right? Because I know I'm not an expert in response or whatever. I think I would be able to try to break whatever barriers is stopping this person from sharing. You know, assurances, especially confidentiality. Sometimes people's concerns are around confidentiality. It's not about whether they don't want that person to face the music. You know, there's a way you can make this person understand, or at least speak to the experts. Yeah? Tell the person to speak to experts, or take this matter to experts with non-disclosing information at first, until you are sure that you've gotten that person's permission. And I'm sure the experts can, you know, break that ice you are not able to break, hopefully.
Because if you don't take major actions, that person is a threat to almost everyone around.
Yes.
So the risk of repeat abuse is very high there, you know, because this person has already achieved, that's a conquered region or a conquered area for whoever this abuser is, and they would keep coming back. I know.
Yes, just last.
Hafsat want to add
I would
something.
just say one thing. You know, it is an obligation. It doesn't even matter if it's not happening to you, right? It's like you witnessing something, or someone tells you that something has happened, right? It is an obligation upon you to report that incident. And when we sit down here and say, I don't know how to help, I have given you a leeway. This is the first step that you can take in responding or mitigating any form of gender-based violence. It's your responsibility. It is an obligation. Report.
Thank you, Hafsa. So quickly, 15 seconds, final words before we'd take a group picture and wrap it up. Final words, Sim.
So I'd just like to add that we need to know what sexual harassment is at every level, because during my research, I found out that I had probably been sexually harassed and I did not know that I was sexually harassed. So we need to actually know that bullying, jokes, tapping someone's body inappropriately, sending sneaky stickers on WhatsApp, they are all sexual harassment.
Thank you, Simnom.
So,
no more questions.
So the 15-second closing for me would be, each one of us, every one of us is responsible in this fight against sexual harassment and abuse. And our role may be as simple as just saying something to somebody. it may be as difficult as prosecuting at the higher level. But as far as we chip in our little bits, we'll be able to fight and successfully defeat sexual harassment.
Thank you,
abuse.
thank you, thank you, Haruna.
So just quickly, you know, no is no. Silence is no. It is our obligation to report, and supporting survivors is mandatory upon all of us. Let us all stop stigma, shaming, and have zero tolerance for any form of gender-based violence globally.